Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. I'm good, and I'm excited because we have another guest on the
We
show.
do indeed. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. So I had the absolute pleasure of watching today's guest at TEDx Wolverhampton Women. Her talk was What Death Has Taught Me About Life. And honestly, I was just so engaged for the whole talk. I made so many notes. And I knew we needed today's guest on the show. So it gives me so much pleasure to introduce Rachel Carter onto the podcast today. Now, Rachel is the founder of Eva and Alma and the Soul Doula movement. She is also an inner peace coach, yoga master, and of course, a TEDx speaker. So here we go. Welcome, Rachel, to the show.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Are
Thank
you
you. I've just
okay?
dropped my ring light. Sorry
That's
about that.
okay. That's okay. Do you know what? We get away with things like this because we're the Authentic Girls Club. So we
That's
just keep
authentic.
rolling. We just keep rolling. It's real
Just fell
life.
off
Oh,
just to
that's
cause
okay.
disruption,
All the tech, all the tech. So how are you doing, Rachel? You okay?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. I'm
Excellent.
really good. Nice to see
Excellent.
you both.
Lovely to see you.
Fabulous. So today's talk, today's episode, we are really excited because as I mentioned, Rachel's talk was on about what death has taught me about life. And there was something Rachel said, which I'm just going to quote her here, was the art of living is to die without regrets. And we're really going to unpack this and what inner peace means on the show today. But before we kick off, as we always do with our guests, we'd love our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So if we could start off, Rachel, with handing it back over to you to just find out a little bit about you, your journey, how you've got to where you are, and a little bit about the work you do as well.
Thank you. I don't know where to start. It's
Yeah,
been
it's tricky.
such a wild ride. As in a good way, because over the past, I say 12 years, at least 12 years, I've really had to embody and understand what inner peace actually was and live it and breathe it. And it's because of life, because life taught me. So where do I start? So in terms of me, how do you end up as an end of life soul doula and trainer and inner peace coach? Like, how do you do that? So pre 2011, I was in corporate marketing. I had an incredible high flying career. I studied international business. I was a competitive sport. So I used to swim competitively. I used to run for my county and I used to play netball at National League. So sport was my life. So as you can imagine, I had a very busy career, very busy, active social life, and also sporting life. And that was my whole life. And to me, I was peaceful. It was all good. So I had a lovely life. But to me, health was eat well and move your body and be fit. And that's pretty much all we were taught what health was. And then a little bit of a storm flew into my life completely out of the blue. So I ended up having a mini stroke scare, major spinal surgery, and then literally woke up. And I've discovered, well, not discovered, basically that created, I actually live with a disability now, an invisible disability through neurological complications. So to go from having this belief system that I can do whatever I want as long as I believe in myself, and that's genuinely how I lived. So I believed I was healthy. That mindset then became my enemy, because for the first, I can't even remember, maybe a year, 2 years after what happened, I fought everything. No, as in not angry or would have seen. I fought myself. I pushed my body. I didn't allow my body to heal. I told myself that I was going to that this didn't happen. It wasn't going to happen. It's like I avoided reality, really. Some people could see that as a positive mindset, but actually I'd taken it too far, and I wasn't actually facing the reality of situation, and I was punishing my body without realizing it, because without realizing it, I believed my body had let me down. And it's something that I see in death. So a lot of people, when they go on their dying journey, start to resent their bodies because they believe their body has let them down. So there were similarities there in the learnings about connecting to the body. So I lost my career. So I went through massive loss. So after my situation, I lost my career. I lost my sporting circles, my social life. I lost so much. My whole life turned upside down. And I thought for a moment I'd lost myself, because my whole identity had shifted overnight. And of course, that created inner turmoil. So I was really living what it felt like to have so much loss and change all in one go, with no way out of it, because I was very much an action taker. I'm not afraid to face myself and take action. So when I was in this situation where I couldn't take any action, and my old mindset of pushing through and believing everything was going to be okay, and this isn't real, and la 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 la, you're going to beat this, and all that mindset sounds positive on the surface, but for me it was actually making me worse. And it actually impacted my healing journey, because I just wasn't loving myself enough to heal. So I then ended up, at the same time, my nan was dying. So during the same period of time, my nan, who was my favourite person on this planet, and this is what I spoke about in the TEDx, really, she was the catalyst in terms of the journey to actually support people who were dying. I was obviously off work, healing from physical surgery, and she was dying. So the beauty and the gift in this situation was that I got to spend time with my nan that I didn't have when I was in the corporate world. So I feel very privileged. Even though I was going through turmoil and a storm, I had such a gift of time with my nan, because I didn't know she was dying originally. So when we found out she was dying, she wanted to die at home, and everyone rallied around her to get her home, which was wonderful. That was her request. Unfortunately, like birth, death can change very quickly, and my nan had quite a difficult journey. It's not very common, but she had a very painful, difficult journey. So her death taught me what a very painful, traumatic death looked like, and what a very peaceful death looked like. So I actually got to see duality in action. My nan's death also taught me what total pain looked like. So, I think, if you remember right, I said in my TEDx talk that the dying have been my biggest teachers in this life. So one of the things my nan taught me was what total pain was. And total pain, it doesn't only show up on the deathbed. It comes out on the deathbed more common, because you're forced to face that on your deathbed. Everybody is. Whereas in life, it can be easily suppressed and hidden and distracted. So total pain is when you have physical pain and distress that medicine cannot control. Medicine cannot support. So that's a sign that this pain has stepped into the emotional and spiritual realm, and that we need to look at the mind-body connection. We need to look at your spiritual self, because when I say spiritual self, that doesn't mean you have to have a spiritual belief. So I have the privilege of hearing everybody's different beautiful belief systems and loving every single one of them. And that includes people who do not believe there is anything beyond, like, I don't like labels, but let's say atheist. To me, that's still a belief system. And it's still an important, beautiful belief system. So there is always a belief. So for that person in particular, even though I say the word spiritual, for me, it's connecting to them what gives them hope, what love means. That's, to me, still spiritual, even though they won't see that. There will be part, like, connecting to their essence, connecting to their inner world. So when someone goes into total pain, their inner world is not okay. And it's their inner world that's suddenly manifesting physically. And so we see that in life. And the reason why that was really important to me is because I was experiencing that myself at the same time, yet I wasn't dying. So I'd had spinal surgery, neurological complications. I was living with chronic pain. It was consuming me. And it's because I had stepped into total pain myself. I didn't know what it was. So bear in mind, during that time, I didn't know the term total pain. I didn't know that that's what it was, but I was living it and experiencing it and observing it. So this is how life and death can teach us. So I experienced what total pain was and what spiritual pain was. Just going back to spiritual pain, my nan's spiritual needs weren't met. So because she was spiritual, not religious, but never spoke about that in her life, no one knew what she wanted, no one knew what would comfort her. Her spiritual needs weren't met, which were also creating pain for her. And then you've got obviously all the emotional stuff that can come up. You know, where I said the art of living is to die without regrets. Regrets create pain on the deathbed.
Right.
So that's where they connect with total pain. And we see this in life as well. Unexplained pains, distress, inner turmoil. The majority of people that I work with in life, I call them my swans, because they are the people, I call them leaders. That doesn't necessarily mean business leaders, they are leaders. And they are incredibly powerful. But the world has stunted their light. So they're my swans because they are graceful, they are beautiful. Everyone, you know, everyone goes to them really for their support. They are the light for everybody else. But under the surface, they are paddling like mad, and that's their inner world. So I work with those people really the most, to really teach them about themselves, make friends with their mind, reconnect with their body in love and gratitude instead of punishment, which is what we do, and really free their soul, and whatever form that is for them. So that could be connecting to their intuition, their spirituality, whatever that is. So that's what so that's where life and death taught me really, and that's part of my journey. And then the dying sort of journey, how I got to work with the dying, escalated quite quickly because my nan wanted to die at home. She couldn't because her journey had gone beyond being able to be comfortable at home. So the hospice stepped in, my local hospice, and they were amazing. So although we were really upset that my nan never got to die at home, it was the best thing that happened. So they stepped in, took her to the hospice, and she was only there for 3 days. And in those 3 days, she went from really, really distressed to very calm and peaceful. And she died with all 14 of us around her bedside. I thought that was normal, but I realised it's not normal now. So my nan had the death that she wanted. She was a matriarch. And so to say thanks to the hospice on behalf of the family, because we were all traumatised by the journey that my nan had been on. We didn't understand death. We never spoke about death with each other, even though she was dying. I don't remember us opening up a space for her to talk about death, even though she was dying. It's like we all just went and just stuck our heads in the sand because we were all absolutely distraught in our own grief. That doesn't mean we've done anything wrong. Like, we have to have love and self-compassion for that. But what it taught me is that by denying death creates pain. For the people that are losing their loved one and for the person that's dying. So so to say thanks to the hospice, I was obviously recovering from surgery but well enough to do something. So I volunteered to say thanks, and I genuinely thought I'd be there for a couple of months max, like genuinely. And we are. So I started in January 2013, so we're nearly 11 years on, and I am still working in death. So that certainly wasn't the plan. I did actually, I know I said I lost my career. When I started working in death, I wasn't looking to go into this as a career, if that makes sense, because I'd ended up setting up my own small business consultancy that worked for me to take care of my health and in the local area. So I wasn't looking for a new career. But you know, in the universe, it's like,
here you go.
Yeah, you're meant to be here, mate. You're meant to be here.
Yes.
Off you go.
Yes.
So I did lots of different trainings. I also, to be honest with you, the first and foremost thing I did was go on my own healing journey. I had no intention of doing this for work, and it wasn't until I was about 4 or 5 years down the line of understanding the mind-body connection, the importance of mind-body-soul balance, and actually how that impacted my health and my life, that I was like, this is really important. I didn't know any of this existed, and I had to teach myself how to do it. And then I went, and it was only then where I was like, do you know what, I'm going to go and train properly to do this and to teach other people how to live peacefully and the impact on the health, and to sit and work with the dying. So although it sounds fragmented, it all goes hand in hand. So life and death aren't separate. How you live impacts how you die. So although I work in life and I work with leaders to make sure they've got inner calm, inner peace, and really step back into their power and hold it, that will affect how they die. So it's not hand in hand, it's not separate, it's hand in hand. So yeah, that's really in a nutshell how I got to that point. And even now I'm having to really step into what inner peace is not happiness. That's a mistake that we make, because inner peace is acknowledging and enjoying happiness, but also observing and not pushing away the sadness and the pain of life, and seeing them as equal experiences. And that creates inner peace inside, because you cannot avoid life.
No.
Yeah.
You cannot avoid the reality of life. And the more you push the reality of life away, the more pain you create inside for yourself, because life happens. So even now, I'm actually navigating a very shock, out of nowhere, out of the blue divorce after 18 years. And my whole life again has been thrown upside down. And I'm really grateful this time that, although it's been really painful, and it will be for a while as we navigate it, I'm really grateful that this time I know what an inner peace is. This time I now know what healing is. I feel equipped and armed with all of the tools to navigate it and be free of any pain, regret, bitterness, pain, to be free to move on. So this is why talking about inner peace and teaching it, but not just from an intellectual level. This is the other mistake we make. We think we have to read it, we have to listen to it, we have to study it. That's great, but until you embody it inside your body, it's not going to happen. And that's why I get a lot of people come to me going, I've listened to this podcast for years, I've been reading this book, I've done that training, I've done this. And I actually say to them, what do you do to bring it into your body, to get out of here and into here? And they don't know. They've never done it. They just think in here and it's enough. And there's no embodiment. And that's the game changer, is the embodiment. And that's where I work, in the embodiment of inner peace.
Wow.
Sorry. Was that, I could talk more.
Well, it's legit. Well, we could have sat here listening for
know.
hours, honestly. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing all that you have, and just what a journey. And I know you will be, but a journey to be so proud of, to get to that point, like you say, of that embodiment, and to this point of, I've never really seen in a piece like that, but yes, it's both, isn't it? And it really is. We always say at TAGC, we don't wear rose tinted glasses, like, and just, pull up our positive pants and carry on, and just pretend that life is not really happening and life isn't hard sometimes. But just the way you've kind of shared that was just so inspiring. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you resonated.
Yes, it did. And the whole embodiment, I feel like this is probably really been in the last year for me that I kind of have known about the tools and have been practicing it regularly, but it's probably only in the last year, with these extra pieces of the puzzle, that I've really embodied it and moved from, I suppose, doing to being.
Yeah. Well done. That's really powerful, because very few people are prepared to embody.
And it's still,
that's amazing.
It's still, when you're like, it's still catching me out on some days, I'm like, no, be, and like just the power of just even the present moment, isn't it? And accepting it for what it is. But yes, amazing. Sorry, Kat, I cut you off.
No, it's absolutely fine. I just want to say you're fascinating, Rachel. That I literally could sit and listen to you talk all day. And whenever you talk, I feel something goes on my tummy, and I just feel, in a good way, but emotion when I listen to you talk. It's just, it's incredible, the work you do. And like Charlotte's already said, your journey is just such an inspiration. And I think you've really highlighted how important it is to just not pretending that everything's okay. Yes, let's enjoy the happiness and the good times, but let's equip and prepare and, give ourselves the tools to navigate the challenging times. Because if we just pretend they're not happening and just power through, you can only surely see that that's going to be painful, throughout and in the long run, isn't it? It's kind of getting ourselves equipped for the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the highs, the lows, all of it, because it's all the experience, isn't it, in life? And it's nice to hear the difference in the happiness and the inner peace, and the way you've described it in that way. Is there, I've got notes here from my TEDx talk, sorry guys, I'm just referring to a little, is there kind of like a key or to living peacefully? Like, what does, how would one start to, if they're really intrigued by what they're hearing and think, well, I'm always striving just to be happy, but actually I quite like this idea of being peaceful and having inner peace instead. Is there something they could start to, any tips? That's not the right word, but just kind of any sort of words of wisdom to starting on that journey?
What I would say, first of all, the journey would be unique to everyone. So I cannot sit here and give like a tick box list, because I think first and foremost, actually studying yourself. So for a period of time, letting go of the books, letting go of any external knowledge and information, and actually spend time with yourself. Genuinely spend time with yourself. What's coming up? What's coming out from inside? What wisdom do you have in the body? Your wisdom is in the body. Knowledge is in the mind and the brain. Wisdom is in the body. The body is what will tell you and speak to you. So any work with the body to reconnect you with your body is an incredible place to start. But that will look different for everybody, because we're all unique beings. What I would say is, and yes, I did talk about this at the TEDx, didn't I? So the key to living peacefully is to not cling to happiness. And obviously we hear in the modern life coaching world, I'm not knocking it, I'm not saying it's wrong, because I think when you're somebody that always sees the negative and only sees the negative, you need to learn how to connect to the positive. It's really important. So I'm not saying that's wrong or whatever, but what happens when anything goes out of balance, because these teachings are important, but when people don't understand and it goes out of balance, clinging to happiness creates misery, which means you will never be happy. Because when you want to only experience life from happiness, life doesn't work that way, which means you're pushing and forcing something and creating your own misery. So it's about allowing the happiness, really being present in it when it comes, enjoying it, and not clinging to it and thinking life has got to be like that, or you're failing, or life isn't going well for you, or you must be doing something wrong. So it's let go of the clinging to happiness, but to lead with the positivity. So unless you're going through trauma, so let's remove trauma for a moment, because when you're actually going through trauma, trying to find positivity in that is almost impossible and a little bit toxic. So it's about when you're actually in trauma. So let's park that, because that's different. But if we're talking about everyday stresses and strains and life, allow yourself to find the positive in everything, but acknowledge the reality. So I use that example, didn't I, that a teacher shared with me actually recently. And it's a great story about the woman with 3 daughters. And this is just a story, by the way, it's not real, but it gives a good example.
It's a great story
of how to live peacefully. So a woman has 3 daughters, and she sends one of the daughters out to buy some olive oil. She gives her £10, sends her out to the shop. The daughter goes to the shop, buys the bottle of oil, and on the way home, she trips and falls, drops the bottle. And she arrives home to her mum crying and crying and crying that she's spilt half of the oil. So she's lost half of the oil. And she's just really upset and feels awful. And then the following week, the second daughter, same task, is given £10 to the shop to go and buy some more oil. The same thing happens. She falls over. She drops the oil. This time, this daughter arrives home with a massive smile on her face. Look, Mum, I've saved half of the oil. So same experience. It's that example of the glass half full, half empty, isn't it? However, that's not going to give you peace. And we only ever hear about the glass half empty, half full, don't we? So there's a piece missing. So the third daughter goes on the same journey. She has £10. She goes to buy some olive oil. She's also clumsy and trips on the way home. She also loses half the oil. This time she gets home to her mum, smiling, saying, Mum, I tripped, I lost half of the oil. And I saved half of the oil. So she led with the positivity as well. However, I've also lost half of the oil. So then I am going to work hard to save the £5 to replace the oil that I lost. And that's the difference. So it's about leading with positivity, removing trauma, by the way. Let's pretend that you can't do that in trauma, but leading with positivity, acknowledging, observing reality, and then taking action and accountability, even if it was an accident that wasn't your fault, for want of a better phrase, because life happens and accidents happen. And sometimes we do things that are our fault. You know, we do things that aren't great. It's the action and accountability, which means that we'll live peacefully and we'll die without regrets.
Wow.
Because we've led with positivity, we've observed reality, and we've taken action and accountability. That's peaceful living. So I hope that helps.
Oh, it does. It does. And it just, I feel like as you're speaking, like a lot of my own story is just slotting into place as well, you know, and you kind of like that makes so much sense. Like,
Yeah.
I know for me, I wasn't taking action for so long and like kind of taking that responsibility. Like you say, it's not sometimes in things not accepting fault of things, but it's that responsibility, isn't it? That this is my life and it's my inner peace and I'm ready to take control of it, I suppose. But yeah, just that kind of building that relationship up with self, isn't it? To go through that process and kind of see yourself for who you are. Like you say, step into that understanding of who you are. And it just, it takes you to that peaceful place because you're like, I know who I am. I know where I want to go. I know like my strengths, my weaknesses, like, and I don't know, and you just kind of, evolve into this. I suppose it's being, and very, very recent, I'm not wording this very well, but very recently, I think on this being journey, but it's making a lot of sense. It really is.
Nobody can tell you who you are. Not a single person on this planet can tell you who you are, which is why I encourage for a period of time to put the books, to put the knowledge, to put the external information away, because nobody can tell you who you are. You have to do that time with yourself. And although I'm an inner peace coach, my role isn't to tell somebody who they are. My role is to guide them to themselves, to be able to get back that power and connection to self. And that's the game changer to inner peace. It really is. And to be honest with you, in my journey, particularly in 2011, what happened to me wasn't my fault. It was traumatic. And I had to go through the trauma until I actually came out of that to realize that, it wasn't my fault, but I have responsibility for my life. So I chose to go on the healing journey. I chose to do that. I chose to study myself. I chose to really understand my mind-body connection. I chose to understand, I came out of my spiritual closet. I chose all of that. And that was the key to the healing. There wasn't anyone telling me what I was and what to do. I decided to actually do that for myself. And that is how I managed to do so well with my own healing and live a really fulfilled life, when on paper, my life shouldn't be like this. I chose to do something differently. And it's that inner power. Nobody else can give you that inner power, but we all have it within inside of ourselves. We all do, every single one of us. But no one can tell you what that is. Nobody knows you better than yourself.
No.
And often we can forget who we are, can't we? And
100%.
obviously, going on that journey is that's the intention, isn't it? To rediscover and reconnect and build that relationship back up with ourselves. Because I know I've been at a point where I've like, well, who really am I? And like you said, Rachel, and there's such sound advice to kind of put all the stuff to one side for a moment, the books, the learning, and just spend time alone. And at one point for me personally, that felt really hard to spend time with myself, by myself, with nobody around. And I would avoid it at all costs. I would be one of these people that would say, I'm not very good with my own company. I didn't like being in my own headspace or my own body space. And it's just, like through what you've said in terms of taking that responsibility and harnessing that power of choice that we all have, because that's when we really empower ourselves, isn't it? We claim our power back when we choose. We should just go in on it and just rediscover and rebuild that relationship back up with self. But you almost do just kind of have to block out all the noise for a little bit, don't you? And just spend some time with ourselves to figure out who we are.
It's a long journey. It's not something you don't sit with yourself for 2 days and go, I know who I am. it's a devoted, committed to a path that not many people go on. So
Mm.
you will feel lonely, you know, you will feel like, I'm living a life, like, what is this? And it's not a quick fix. And you will start uncovering layers. So you'll have a layer and you'll go, I know myself. And then something will happen. And then you're like, oh, now I'm going to know myself even more. It's not something you can click your fingers, and it's a life choice. It becomes a life choice then, and a path and a journey, as opposed to I'll do this for like a week or something, and then I'll be done. You know, it's actually a complete shift of life choice.
Yeah.
But it's
Wow.
worth it.
Yeah.
It is.
And that's the key to peace. We're talking about inner peace. That's how you obtain inner peace.
I was going to say, because you know, when you do get that time, because I also relate to that, not wanting to spend that time on your own, you know, like it's like I remember back in the day kind of being gifted an hour where my husband would take the girls out and I'd be left with an hour, and I'd literally just burn myself out doing all the housework because I didn't know how I wanted to spend that time, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I suppose what's a bit of advice maybe that you could give to someone who maybe gains an hour, what could they maybe do within that hour to kind of, you're not going to be able to go on this journey in an hour, it's not, but you know, like how would you suggest maybe filling that time, using that time?
I suppose to start exploring.
Yeah, what kind of ways of
like I say, that's quite hard because we're all unique, aren't we?
is,
So I can only share, I suppose, what I started with. That doesn't mean this is truth and the only way to do it, so I just want to put a caveat with that.
Yes.
I actually have had privilege that I've always been comfortable in my own company. So I already had a head start. So I had a bit of a privilege there. But obviously, when I lost myself through the trauma, I couldn't sit with myself as well, because I realised that I was angry with myself, angry with my body. I felt, you know, everything was going wrong, all of that stuff. But I would say I persevered and really took that time to listen to my inner world. And if you can't sit with yourself, so we're talking silent meditation, really.
Yeah.
Turning the phone off, sticking it in another room, making sure in a room without a TV, you know, somewhere, it doesn't necessarily need to be peacefully quiet, but I can, you know, after years of meditation, you can meditate in noise. So silent, but I understand that's not something that can happen overnight for everybody. But actually meditating in a noisy place is actually a gift, because it actually forces you to actually focus better. So it's a gift. So really to just sit, connect with your heart. So try to connect with your heart through the breath. And really it's the breath that will connect you to your body, between your mind and your body. It's your breath. So really, if you get that extra hour, is to sit with your breath and yourself. And that's it. So that could be as simple as noticing the inhales and the exhales with your hand on your heart. And when I say noticing, if you are somebody that can't just notice and observe, and you need that internal dialogue, you know, saying inhale, exhale, you know, if that's what you need, and do that for as long as you can, your mind will kick off.
I love that.
That's a given. Your mind will kick off. So, you know, you have to make friends with your mind to be able to do it. So it's not about going, and getting angry with your mind for kicking off. It's about loving your mind and making friends with your mind again. If loads of things come up, like to-do lists, which is very common when you lead a very busy life, okay, come out of the meditation, write the to-do list down and go back in. That's okay. If you can't just observe the to-do list and let it go, then allow yourself to write it down and go back in. It's self-compassion, isn't it? Nothing needs to be perfect, is what I'm trying to say. It's just the intention to be there.
I like that there's no right and wrong with meditating, is there? Because I know I definitely had a preconceived like image of what meditating is, and you sit and you don't think about anything, and literally it's just like peaceful thing. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever quite reached that point yet, but you know, it's that kind of like thoughts will come. And I remember I was doing one, gosh, I forget when this was, it was quite a while ago, but kind of almost like your thoughts are a leaf on the river. So you just, the thoughts will come, but just let them keep going, and kind of flow through you, and it's getting to that point, isn't it?
There's
Mm.
loads of different ones. You can see thoughts as clouds.
Clouds
You
as well.
can, one I do
Yes.
regularly is, if you feel like you've got lots of thoughts, you can actually visualize yourself walking down to a river and then taking out the pebbles and putting them in back in the river, and each pebble represents a burden or a thought, that something that's weighing you down.
Yeah.
And then when you feel visually that all of your pockets are empty in that moment, then you can walk over the bridge to wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, there's no perfect way of being. And when frustration comes up in meditation, because it does,
Mm-hmm.
observe it.
Yeah.
You just observe it with
Mm.
love. You
Mm-hmm.
see it as equally valid to the bliss and peace that you can feel in meditation.
Yeah.
And you just observe it. And I know that sounds easy, but it's not. But that's the key to being peaceful with those moments.
Yeah.
So I would say it's definitely sitting with yourself. And as you sort of continue to do that more and more, you actually then start to hear wisdom come from within your body.
Yeah.
Love that.
But you can't hear that wisdom if your mind is
Yeah.
and you can't, it's impossible. We all lead modern world busy lives in our mind.
Mm.
Until we hear our body speak and that inner wisdom, that's when you start to really know who you are.
Wow.
So
Do you know what
sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry, Rachel. I was going to say, do you know what really excites me about this? If someone's starting out and using this as a starting point, is that it is a journey, and we can let go of the need for it to be perfect. And, just kind of this, well, let's just go for it sort of attitude, and being open and see, I could just see spending that time, just kind of being and seeing what comes up and just allowing that, and kind of just letting go of any constraints or any, well, it should be this way. And I think if we go into it knowing it's a journey, like you've expressed, it's not well, if I do this for the next 7 days, I tick these 10 things and I'm done and I know who I am and perfect, I've got inner peace down in a week. If we're allowing for it to be a journey, messy, imperfect, whatever it needs to be, that's, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there's a weight off the shoulders there, just to
Good.
go, oh,
Yeah.
actually, I can just do that. This is okay. Like,
Yeah.
I can get to know myself, and I can be everything that I want to be for myself.
Yeah. Allow yourself to journey. Allow
Yeah.
yourself on the journey. And going back to just briefly when you said you need an extra hour a day, I would say, I know and understand why that is a belief there. I believe that, and that's a good place to start. The next step from that is to see this is a lifestyle. So you don't just carve out an hour for it.
No.
You actually allow yourself to observe your life and how you show up in your life. And it could be just, you have a really stressy morning with the kids because they're not doing what they need to do, observing yourself in that moment. And then once the kids have gone to school or they're out or wherever they've gone, actually allowing yourself to connect your breath. Where in the body do you feel what just happened in that experience? And it's just really connected. It's a lifestyle. It's not necessarily having to compartmentalize it. But I do understand when you're beginning that you need to feel that time.
Yes.
I would say as you go on the journey, this is a lifestyle and you don't need to find time for it. You actually switch to, this is my life now, and this is an observance, and this is, taking 3 breaths. Where am I feeling it in the body? You don't need an hour for that.
Yeah.
No. It's
That's
that shift to
yourself.
Sorry, it's that shift to that conscious awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Starting from, we can be so autopilot, can't we?
Yeah.
In life, just doing without even thinking about it. But it's that shift into that awareness of like, how am I feeling right now, and what's good for me, and just kind of like you said, Rachel, just kind of the embodiment of that, and that's just who you become, rather than, well, now is my 30 minutes of getting to know myself time, or it's just, you just kind of do it without thinking about it. But it's a process, isn't it, to get there if we're not used to doing it.
And I suppose you could go back to the example with the oil. Is anything that happens in your day that feels a bit uncomfortable, use the oil example. What was the positive? What was the reality? And what action and accountability am I going to take?
Perfect.
I love that.
That's
And
just checking in with yourself.
Yeah. And that's, would you say then, the piece of kind of living without regret, because you're kind of taking that action more so and working through that?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I hear the regrets on the deathbed. I hear them. You know, I wish I hadn't worked as hard.
Mm.
I wish I'd spent more time with the people that I loved.
Mm.
I wish I hadn't treated that person this way. I wish I was able to reconcile with the person that I loved. You know, there's so many different things. And if you can literally live your life without regrets, it will make a massive difference when it comes to your time to go. And that is something that will happen to each and every one of us. And that's something you cannot avoid. You know, we're talking about avoiding reality. Living
Yeah.
like we're immortal, that's never going to happen, does create regrets on the deathbed. I've seen it time and time again.
Wow. Oh, that's
Wow.
a thought to think about, isn't
It
it, for
certainly
sure?
is.
And I think it's and I know is it Bronnie Ware who also studied the dying, and I think I wrote it down and I've not got the book with me, but one of them was a kind of about not living the life that they were meant to live, and instead living a life that, you know, kind of others expected them to live.
Yes.
And that kind of disconnect of, you know, us all kind of being stuck on this wheel of living life the way that we think we should live it, instead of living the life that the way that we want to live it and the way that our heart wants us to live it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Oh,
very
Yeah,
complicated because we're all so unique. There
we
isn't
are.
one tick box, you know?
No. And it's, you
And
know, it's about embracing that uniqueness, isn't it?
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
makes us all so wonderful. That
yeah,
we're all so different, and we,
yeah.
you know, we can dull that down, can't we, to try and conform or fit in or be like others. It's like, no, no.
stand
Let's,
out.
yeah, be who we truly are.
Yeah. And the key is to act from love. So when we look at karma, karma just means to act. It's actually ancient yogic Sanskrit word, which means
Yeah.
action.
Mhm.
Karma just means to act, and every single action will have consequences. Every
Yeah.
single action will have good and bad consequences. Everything you do. So the key is to every act that you take to live from the light. So for me, that means lead from the heart. So even if you lead from the heart and love and do something with no malintention, you know, something that's really positive, there will still always be a negative consequence from that. But it's being okay with that because you have led from the heart.
Yeah.
And that was also a peaceful way of living.
Mm.
They're all very interlinked. And just ensuring that that happens as well. You know, that's how you live with no regrets, is to actually
Yeah.
lead from the heart. Yeah, and for yourself. So a lot of people think that means that it's got to be love for others. That's where you lose yourself.
Mhm.
Because I always say, I love pleasing people. I love pleasing people because it makes me happy, but I'm not a people pleaser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Because it's
two
a
different
choice.
things. They are
Yeah.
two different things, which means when I am with somebody and I say I'm going to do something, it's because I'm showing up because I want to do it, not because I
Mm.
feel I have to, which creates resentment.
Oh,
Big difference, isn't there?
yes. Yeah.
Massive
Yeah.
difference.
Oh, wow.
Massive difference.
That's great.
That's a right little value bomb at the end,
Yeah.
isn't it? I was
Yeah.
like,
Totally.
whoa.
Totally.
Love for
Yeah.
others, but love for yourself as well. And that's the key to peaceful living as well. There's so many different things.
There
And it's
really
this
is. There really
compassion
is.
without self-compassion. Like you say, it just kind of it leads to that burnout, resentment, exhaustion.
Mm. Mm.
It
And I
ruins
think
relationships,
it
even though that's
does,
not the
yeah.
intention. It ruins
Yeah.
relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Wow.
goodness. Wow,
Rachel.
thank you so
Oh,
much.
I think we
Thank you
could
for
talk, we
having
could keep
me.
going, couldn't we? We really
Yeah,
could, but
no,
there's so much insight, inspiration, value in everything you've just shared with us today. So yeah, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much.
You're
It really
welcome.
has been a pleasure, and I know our listeners will take so much from this this episode with you. Before we wrap up, we do have a question for you that we are starting to ask everybody that comes on our show as a
Okay.
guest. A little question which will come right out of the blue to you. But we're asking all of our guests the same question. And that is, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Wow.
Wow, I know. It's a tough
Okay.
one.
Okay. The piece of advice would be, don't swallow the poison.
Oh,
Ooh, love
So
that.
to give some context around it,
yeah.
when people bring not very nice things to you, that has nothing to do with you,
Yeah.
don't swallow the poison. Because when I was younger, I used to take everything on as this is all my fault. I should have been better, because I'm very self-aware and so take accountability for everything. I went out of balance and took accountability for everything, which then meant I was swallowing other people's poison.
Wow.
So I would
love
say,
that.
don't swallow the poison.
That is sounded.
Oh.
That's a bit like the mic drop moment, guys.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's
Oh,
so powerful. And
amazing.
Yeah, that really lands.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't swallow the
Amazing.
poison. I
Don't
think we
swallow
It
could
the
goes
all.
into your
poison.
body, doesn't it? It goes into your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not our thing to take on, is
No.
it? It's like,
No, if
oh,
I've created pain for somebody, I own it. I work with, you
Mm.
know, I own that. Like if I have, I live a life where I don't. But if someone comes to me and says, you've hurt me, or I will speak to them, we'll have a conversation, we will work it
yeah.
out. We might agree to disagree. We will repair if we need to.
Yeah.
If someone brings something to me or projects something that's nothing to do with me, which is very common,
Yeah.
don't swallow the poison. Don't let it in the body.
Yes.
That doesn't mean
Okay.
have no compassion. Just don't put it in my body. And that's it.
Yes.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so, so much, Rachel. This has been such an inspiring conversation. And I know you've got me thinking a lot already. I'm like,
I love it. Thank you.
Definitely. And what we'll do,
Oh.
we'll pop all of Rachel's details in the show notes, guys, so you can see how you can take this journey further with Rachel and all the wonderful work that she does. So we will drop that in for you, Rachel. And yeah, just thank you again so much for being on the show with us today. And we'll see you guys soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.